My husband dumped me as dead weight. Then my dad's timber fleet arrived. Come haul your broke, useless daughter back to your scrap pile before I throw her out on the curb. Those were the exact words my husband barked into his speakerphone before laughing and slamming the call shut. Exactly 14 minutes later, the concrete beneath our quiet Southlake, Texas cul-de-sac began to vibrate. Every manicured lawn froze. Neighbors stopped watering their hydrangeas. Windows rattled in their frames. And my husband, who had just triumphantly handed me divorce papers, stood on our stone driveway holding his sleek leather folder, completely unaware that the empire he had spent 8 years trying to build was about to crumble under the weight of his own arrogance. My name is Sarah Miller, and for 8 years, I let the man I loved mistake my quietness for weakness. When I met Tyler Vance, he wasn't driving a luxury Mercedes or wearing custom-tailored linen shirts. He was a low-level site superintendent earning $45,000 a year, eating cold deli sandwiches on overturned buckets of joint compound. I was working a modest administrative job at a regional forestry extension office. When we bought our first starter home in Denton, the roof leaked every time it rained hard, and the air conditioner sounded like a lawnmower choking on gravel. But back then, Tyler held my hand at the hardware store. He kissed my forehead when I stayed up late helping him format his bid proposals. He called me his anchor. Success didn't change Tyler overnight. It crept in like dry rot, slowly, silently, until the timber beneath the surface was completely hollow. His small residential building company caught a lucky break during the Texas housing boom. Suddenly, his circle shifted. He started playing golf at the country club with developers who talked about offshore accounts, sports cars, and square footage like it was the only currency that mattered on God's green earth. Tyler began looking at me through their eyes. Or rather, through the lens of his own insecurity. First, it was subtle. Why don't you get your nails done at that place in Highland Park? Then came the sharp edges. My lead architect's wife just bought a brand new Lexus. Look at you driving a 6-year-old Subaru. And finally, the contempt for my family. Your old man is just a dirt under the fingernails carpenter who smells like pine oil. Your brothers are nothing but muscle-bound saw jockeys. He never visited my hometown in East Texas. Whenever my dad invited us down to the Pine Country for Sunday dinner, Tyler made up excuses about quarterly audits or client dinners. He assumed my dad was just an old, retired woodworker living in a rusted tin roof shop. He never asked why my father's name was listed on the donor wall at the regional hospital. He never wondered why my brothers drove brand new heavy-duty trucks but wore simple denim shirts. Tyler only saw what he wanted to see. And because my family didn't wear gold watches or boast at cocktail parties, he decided they were trash. The morning our marriage died started with rain tapping softly against the kitchen window. I was brewing coffee, hoping Tyler and I could finally talk about the distance growing between us. Instead, he walked into the kitchen wearing a pristine navy suit, tossed a thick manila envelope across the marble island, and leaned back against the counter. I signed them this morning, he said, his voice flat, almost bored. My attorney says as soon as you sign, the house goes up for sale. You get 15% of the liquid equity. That's more than fair considering you never brought a real paycheck into this marriage. 8 years. 8 years of managing his schedules, cooking every meal, handling his accounting during the lean years, and holding his head while he panicked over loan approvals. 8 years, Tyler? I whispered. That's all we were worth? He shrugged. I'm moving on, Sarah. My company is about to secure the framing contract for the Oak Ridge luxury estates. Marcus Thorne, the biggest general contractor in North Texas, is reviewing my bid today. I need a partner who elevates my image, not dead weight. Dead weight. The word burned straight through my chest. I took the pen, signed my name on the dotted line, and pushed the paper back to him. I didn't cry. The sadness in me died right there, replaced by a cold, clear stillness. Then Tyler smiled. A nasty, victorious grin. He pulled out his phone, hit speaker, and dialed my dad. Tyler, don't, I said softly. He ignored me. The call picked up on the second ring. My father's calm, weathered voice came through the speaker. Hello. Jack, Tyler sneered. Come haul your broke, useless daughter back to your scrap pile before I throw her out on the curb.
She's your problem again.
There was a 3-second silence on the line.
No anger, no shouting.
Just my father's quiet, heavy breath. We'll be right there, son, Dad said.
Click.
Tyler laughed out loud. Let's see if that beat-up '98 Ford of his can even make it up the driveway without dropping its transmission. 10 minutes passed. Tyler stood by the front window, checking his watch, smirk intact. Then the ground began to shake. It started as a deep, guttural roar from the end of the boulevard, a mechanical thunder that vibrated right through the soles of our shoes. Tyler frowned, stepping out onto the front porch. Turning the corner into our quiet, oak-lined cul-de-sac came not an old pickup, but 6 massive, custom matte black Peterbilt 389 heavy haulers. Each rig glinted in the drizzling rain, pulling triple-axle flatbeds. On the side of every chrome-trimmed cab was a polished silver emblem, Miller Southern Timber and Logistics, EST 1968. The convoy didn't just drive down the street, it took it over. Air brakes hissed in perfect unison as all 6 trucks lined up end-to-end directly in front of our house, blocking the entire block. Doors opened simultaneously. Out stepped 6 men in dark indigo work coats and clean boots, my brothers Clay, Bo, and Luke, along with 3 senior fleet captains. Tyler's smirk vanished. His jaw went slack. What the hell is this? The passenger door of the lead Peterbilt opened, and my father stepped down. 72 years old, standing 6'2", with snow-white hair and shoulders like oak beams. He didn't look at Tyler. He walked straight up the stone walkway toward me, his eyes soft with a quiet, unconditional love. "Hey, baby girl," Dad said softly, pulling me into a hug that smelled of cedar and rain. "You got your things?" "Just my clothes, my mom's quilt, and my books, Dad," I replied. "Everything else belongs to this house." Tyler took a shaky step backward. "Jack? What? What is this? Whose trucks are these?" My older brother Clay stepped up beside Dad, his arms crossed over his broad chest. "They're ours, Tyler. All 250 of them across Texas, Louisiana, and Arkansas." Before Tyler could process those words, a black Lincoln Navigator pulled up behind the rear truck, tires crunching on the wet pavement. A tall man in a tailored charcoal suit stepped out holding a leather briefcase. Tyler's eyes widened in sheer terror. It was Marcus Thorne, the billionaire CEO of Thorne Development Corporation, the man holding the multi-million-dollar contract Tyler had been begging for over the last 6 months. Tyler immediately smoothed his tie, stumbling down the porch steps. "Mr. Thorne, sir." I didn't expect you here today. We were supposed to meet at your office at 2. Marcus Thorne didn't even look at Tyler. He walked past him as if he were a fire hydrant, stopping directly in front of my father. Thorne extended his hand with deep, undeniable respect. "Jack Miller," Thorne said warmly, shaking my father's hand with both of his. "It's an honor, sir. I got your text that you were in Southlake. I drove straight over from the job site." Tyler looked back and forth between them, his face turning the color of chalk. "Mr. Thorne, you know Jack?" Thorne turned his head slightly, giving Tyler a look of mild disgust. "Know him? Miller Southern Timber supplies 80% of the engineered framing lumber and commercial steel trusses for every single Thorne development project in the state of Texas. Jack Miller is the reason my job sites haven't shut down during this national material shortage." Thorne then looked at me, his eyes brightening. "And Sarah, good to see you again. Your dad was just telling me last month how you used to manage the logistics dispatch system for their Tyler mill before you moved out here." Tyler stood frozen on his own lawn. The rain was falling harder now, soaking his expensive suit, but he didn't move. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. You never told me," Tyler stammered, staring at me with hollow eyes. "Sarah, you never told me your family owned Miller Timber." I looked him dead in the eyes, the same eyes that had called me dead weight 20 minutes earlier. "You never asked, Tyler," I said softly. "In 8 years, you never once asked how my dad built his business. You never asked why my brothers knew every lumber yard manager in North Texas. You only cared about what people drove, where they lived, and how much money they flexed. You assumed we were poor because we didn't brag." My father looked down at Tyler, his voice calm, heavy, and completely devoid of hatred. "A man who measures worth by the shine on a shoeshine boy's boots will always end up standing in the mud, son," Dad said gently. "You had a diamond in your house, and you threw it away because you thought the setting wasn't fancy enough." Marcus Thorne looked down at his watch, then turned his gaze toward Tyler. "Vance," Thorne said, his voice dropping into a cold, professional register. "My team was reviewing your bid for the Oak Ridge project this morning. We were concerned about your supply chain stability. But more than that, I don't do business with men who treat their wives like disposable equipment. If a man can't keep his word to the woman who built his foundation, I certainly can't trust him with a $20 million construction bond. Thorne snapped his briefcase shut. Your bid is rejected. Effective immediately. Tyler's knees visibly buckled. Mr. Thorne, please, my company leveraged everything for that bid. If I lose Oak Ridge, the bank will foreclose on my equipment. Thorne didn't answer. He simply nodded to my father. Jack, I'll see you at the Regional Supplier Summit on Thursday. We need to finalize that lumber allocation for our Austin build. I'll have my team send the paperwork over today, Marcus, Dad replied politely. My brothers quickly loaded my 6 cardboard boxes into the back of Clay's cab. They didn't touch a single piece of furniture Tyler had bought to impress his country club friends. As I walked toward the lead Peterbilt, Tyler ran after me, his hands trembling, tears finally cutting through his rain-streaked face. Sarah?
Please.
He sobbed, clutching at my sleeve. I made a mistake. I was stressed about the project. I love you. We can fix this. We can tear up those papers. I stopped, turned, and looked at him. For 8 years, I would have given my life to hear him say he needed me. But looking at him now, drenched, desperate, and terrified not because he lost me, but because he lost his status, I felt nothing but profound pity. You didn't lose a rich wife today, Tyler, I said, my voice echoing down the silent street where neighbors were still watching from their porches. You lost the only woman who loved you when you were sitting on an overturned bucket eating cold sandwiches. You lost the only person who cared about who you were, not what you owned. I gently pulled my sleeve from his grip, climbed up into the high cab of my father's truck, and pulled the heavy door shut. The air horn blasted, a deep, resonant sound that echoed across the suburban neighborhood like a final sentence. The 6 Peterbilts pulled out slowly, leaving Tyler standing alone in the middle of his soaked driveway, the signed divorce papers slipping from his hand and washing into the storm drain. Justice in real life rarely happens like it does in the movies with explosions and dramatic courtrooms. It happens quietly through the steady weight of consequences. Over the next 2 years, I didn't spend my time gloating over Tyler's downfall. My father didn't use his monopoly to crush Tyler's business. He didn't have to. Without Thorne's contract and without my quiet management keeping his books balanced, Tyler's company folded under its own debt within 9 months. He had to sell the Southlake home, liquidate his machinery, and move into a rented apartment outside Fort Worth, taking a job as a middle management estimator for someone else. As for me, I moved back to the pine woods of East Texas. But I didn't go back to hide. I took over as Director of Operations for Miller Timber's Community Partner Program. I used my experience to build an initiative that supplies discounted, high-grade building materials and low-interest equipment loans to small, independent mom-and-pop contractors, the honest, hardworking builders who are just trying to construct decent homes for real families without getting squeezed out by arrogant corporate developers. 3 years after that rainy morning in Southlake, I stood at a groundbreaking ceremony for a 40-unit affordable housing development in Tyler, Texas. As I cut the red ribbon alongside my dad, my brothers, and dozens of local families, I looked out at the rows of sturdy, beautiful pine frames rising against the blue Texas sky. I realized then that my worth had never been something for Tyler to evaluate or approve. Real strength doesn't need to shout from a country club balcony or show off expensive car keys. Real strength is built quietly, from the ground up, on a foundation of dignity.